Chosen ones are agents of collapse for corrupt systems. There are moments in history when the ground begins to tremble, not because of earthquakes, but because truth has entered the room. It does not knock. It does not ask for permission. It simply arrives, carried on the shoulders of those who were born different. They are the misfits, the misunderstood, the ones who never quite fit into the systems that demanded silence and submission. They are the chosen ones, not because the world applauded their arrival, but because their soul carried a fire that could not be extinguished by conformity. The chosen ones do not seek to be chosen. In fact, most of them spend years, sometimes decades, trying to run from their calling. They want peace, anonymity, an ordinary life. But the fire within won't allow it. It burns with the knowing that something is deeply wrong with the structures of power around them. These systems, governments, religions, corporations, traditions, may wear the mask of legitimacy, but beneath the surface lies corruption, deception, and the calculated manipulation of human consciousness. And so, the chosen are awakened. Not all at once, and not without resistance. Their awakening is painful. They are rejected by those they try to help. They are called rebels, troublemakers, heretics, lunatics. But still they rise. Still they speak. Still they push. Because something inside them understands a fundamental truth. Corrupt systems do not collapse by accident. They collapse because someone, somewhere, had the courage to challenge them. That someone is you. You, who have always felt like there was something more. You, who have never been able to fully obey the lies society tries to dress as truth. You, who have been hurt, betrayed, abandoned, not because you were weak, but because you were born with eyes to see what others cannot. Your pain is not punishment. It is preparation. You are not cursed. You are called. The world you live in today is in crisis. Not just political crisis or economic instability, but a deeper, spiritual sickness. A sickness of systems that profit from keeping people asleep. Systems that reward obedience, not wisdom. Systems that fear the rise of individuals who can no longer be manipulated. And so, they target the chosen ones, because you are the only real threat. Not through violence or revenge, but through vision, clarity, and truth. This speech is not about how to survive in a broken world. It is about how to break the world that survives on lies. It is a call to those who have been pushed to the edge, to those who have questioned everything, to those who carry the scars of resisting the status quo. You were not sent here to blend in. You were sent here to bring it all down and build something sacred in its place. The hidden role of the chosen ones in history. History does not remember the obedient. It remembers the bold. The world we live in today was not shaped by those who followed the rules, but by those who dared to question them. Those who stood alone in the face of ridicule, exile, imprisonment, and even death. These individuals did not rise to power because they desired control. They rose because something deep within them, something ancient and relentless, demanded they act. These are the chosen ones, and they have always existed. Though they often go unnoticed in textbooks and censored in public discourse, they are the secret thread woven through every great transformation in human civilization. The chosen ones are not created by universities, governments, or religious institutions. They are not granted their role by society. In fact, society often rejects them at first. They come from all walks of life: farmers, poets, warriors, outcasts. But what unites them is an unshakable sense of truth, a vision that pierces through illusions, and a refusal to conform to systems built on fear and deceit. From the moment they begin to awaken to who they are, life becomes a battle between their inner knowing and the outer world that resists it. Look back at any turning point in history, and you'll find them there. Not always in the spotlight, but always at the center of the storm. Moses, who stood before Pharaoh not as a diplomat, but as a divine disruptor, challenging an empire with nothing but a rod and the voice of God. Socrates, who questioned the very foundation of Athenian society and was sentenced to drink poison because his truth was too dangerous. Joan of Arc, a teenage girl who claimed divine visions and led armies against political oppression, only to be burned as a heretic. Martin Luther, who nailed his 95 Theses to the church door, sparking a reformation that shattered centuries of religious tyranny. These were not men and women trying to gain fame or fortune. Many of them lost everything: their comfort, their families, their lives. But still, they stepped forward. Still, they refused to stay silent. Because deep inside, they understood that their mission was not about them. It was about something bigger, something timeless. They came to dismantle what was false and to usher in what was true, no matter the personal cost. What makes these individuals dangerous to corrupt systems is that they cannot be predicted or controlled. They do not fit into categories. They do not follow scripts. Their power comes not from titles or money, but from conviction, from the fire in their soul. That is why corrupt systems fear them, because a chosen one, even when outnumbered, can shift the trajectory of nations. They don't need armies. They only need the truth and the courage to speak it. But there's something even more important to understand. These chosen ones are not relics of the past. They are among us now, walking the streets, sitting in silence, struggling in ordinary jobs. Some of them don't even know who they are yet. They are still waking up, still wrestling with the pain of being different in a world that rewards conformity. But soon, they will rise. And when they do, the systems that rely on lies will begin to shake. The role of the chosen one has never been more urgent. We are living in a time when corruption is no longer hidden. It is proudly displayed. Lies are sold as truth, and truth is labeled as hate. Power is concentrated in the hands of the few, and those few will do everything to keep it that way. They rewrite history to erase the rebels. They flood the world with noise so the voice of wisdom cannot be heard. They distract, divide, and degrade the human spirit. But what they cannot do, what they will never be able to do, is stop the emergence of those who were born for this moment. If you have ever felt like you were born for something more, something bigger than yourself, if you have ever looked around and sensed that the world is built on illusions, and that your very presence threatens those illusions, then you may be one of them. A chosen one, not chosen by man, but by purpose, not to be worshipped, but to be used as a vessel, a messenger, a weapon of awakening. You don't need approval. You don't need credentials. You don't need to wait until the world is ready. The world has never been ready for the chosen ones, and it never will be. But that has never stopped them before. It is not your job to be liked. It is not your job to be understood. It is your job to stand in the fire and speak the truth, even when your voice shakes, even when you're standing alone. Because the moment you rise, others will begin to stir. Your courage will unlock something in them. Your defiance will plant seeds of rebellion in the hearts of the silent. Your existence becomes a mirror, and people will either awaken or attack you, but they will never be able to ignore you. This is how corrupt systems collapse, not with riots and chaos, but with the quiet and relentless rise of those who refuse to bow. One awakened soul can shift the energy of an entire room. 10 can shift a nation. A generation of them can bring down empires. That is the power of the chosen ones. You are not here to maintain what is. You are here to challenge it, to question it, to confront it. You are not here to preserve a dying world. You are here to midwife the birth of a new one. That has always been the hidden role of the chosen throughout history, and now it's yours. Why corrupt systems fear the chosen ones? Corrupt systems do not fear violence. They do not fear protests, headlines, or even revolutions. What they truly fear, what shakes them to their core, is the rise of someone they cannot control. A person who sees through the veil. A soul who will not be bought, bribed, broken, or silenced. This is why the chosen ones are considered dangerous. Not because they fight with swords or guns, but because they fight with clarity, with conviction, with a light so piercing that it reveals the rotting foundation beneath all the polished facades. Corrupt systems are built on illusions. They rely on people not asking too many questions, not thinking too deeply, not stepping too far out of line. Their survival depends on routine obedience. They train society to follow patterns, go to school, get a job, obey the rules, don't challenge the narrative. They reward conformity and punish authenticity. They teach people to doubt themselves, to fear their own voice, to silence their intuition. Because when people begin to think for themselves, the system begins to lose control. This is where the chosen ones become a threat. They disrupt the programming. They are not easily fooled. Their minds are sharp, and their spirits are even sharper. They don't just reject the system, they expose it. They speak truths that others are too afraid to admit. And the moment those truths are spoken, something irreversible happens. People begin to wake up. That's the real danger. One awakened soul carries within them the potential to awaken 1,000 more. This is why, historically, chosen ones have been hunted, not just metaphorically, but literally. Their words censored, their reputations destroyed, their lives taken. They are labeled as extremists, lunatics, heretics, or threats to public safety. Not because what they say is false, but because what they say is true, and truth destabilizes power built on lies. You see, corrupt systems don't fear the masses. They know how to manipulate the crowd. But a single person, filled with purpose, unshaken by fear, and guided by something greater than themselves, that is the one thing they cannot predict. That is the one variable they cannot calculate. The chosen one is chaos to the system, not because they create destruction, but because they carry divine order. They operate from a different frequency. While the world is shouting, they are still. While everyone follows, they lead. While most avoid discomfort, they walk straight into it. They speak what others only dare to whisper in the dark. Their presence alone forces others to confront what they've been avoiding. And in a world addicted to comfort and deception, nothing is more terrifying than a human being who refuses to pretend. That refusal, to pretend, to play the game, to smile when something inside screams, "This is wrong," is revolutionary. It exposes the fraud. It pulls back the curtain. It reveals how much of society is built on fear, on performance, on control. And when one person stops playing, others start to question why they're still pretending. This is the ripple effect the system fears most. Not rebellion with weapons, but rebellion of the soul. The moment one person refuses to betray themselves, they unconsciously give others permission to do the same. That's how truth spreads, not by force, but by resonance. And here's the paradox. The more corrupt systems try to silence chosen ones, the louder their message becomes. The more they attempt to destroy them, the more powerful their legacy grows. The system cannot win because it does not understand that chosen ones do not operate for personal gain. They are not motivated by ego, or status, or fame. They are motivated by something eternal, something sacred. A deep, inner knowing that says, "I cannot let this continue, even if it costs me everything." That kind of fire cannot be extinguished. It can only be intensified. But let's not be naive. The chosen ones are not invincible. They feel fear. They feel pain. They feel the weight of isolation, of being misunderstood, of constantly walking against the current. The system tries to break them by making them feel alone. But what the system doesn't realize is that solitude is where the chosen ones grow stronger. In silence, they hear the voice of truth more clearly. In rejection, they learn to trust themselves. In darkness, they become the light. So yes, corrupt systems fear the chosen ones. But it is not just fear, it is desperation. Because they know that once a critical mass of awakened souls rises, the system will fall. Not by force, but by irrelevance. People will simply stop believing in the illusion. They will walk away from the games. They will build something better, something true. And that's the end of control. The collapse of any corrupt system begins the moment the chosen ones rise. Not just as individuals, but as a collective force of clarity, truth, and courage. They don't need a leader, because each of them is guided by something higher. They don't need approval, because they already carry divine validation. They don't need a plan carved in stone, because they move with intuition and divine timing. And that, precisely, is why they are unstoppable. You may feel the pressure right now. You may feel the system watching you, judging you, punishing you for being different. But don't mistake that for failure. It's confirmation. The resistance you face is proof that you are shaking the ground beneath the illusion. You are doing what you were born to do: disrupt, awaken, and dismantle. You are not here to survive under broken systems. You are here to be the reason they fall. The personal cost of being an agent of collapse. To be a chosen one is not a glamorous path. It is not the hero's journey romanticized in films or written in fairy tales. It is not filled with praise, applause, or recognition. In truth, it is often marked by silence, solitude, and suffering. Because to become an agent of collapse, to stand against what is false, you must first die to everything that once made you feel safe in a world built on lies. The first cost is isolation. When you begin to see through the illusion, when your eyes adjust to the blinding light of truth, you quickly realize how alone you are. People who once called you friend may grow distant. Family may stop understanding you. Colleagues may whisper behind your back, not because you've wronged them, but because your awakening threatens their comfort. You become a mirror that reflects what they do not want to see, and instead of facing their own inner dissonance, they choose to cast you out. This exile is not just external, it is internal. You begin to question your own sanity. You ask yourself, why me? Why can't I just be normal? Why do I feel everything so deeply? Why does the suffering of others affect me like it's my own? These questions haunt you in the night, not because you're broken, but because the system taught you that sensitivity is weakness, that intuition is nonsense, that truth is dangerous. But let me tell you now, your sensitivity is your strength. Your ability to feel, to question, to see beneath the surface, that is the mark of the chosen. But it doesn't make the path easier. The second cost is misunderstanding. You will be misunderstood constantly. Your motives will be questioned. Your intentions twisted. You may be accused of being angry, rebellious, or unstable. But what they don't understand is that your fire doesn't come from hatred. It comes from love. A love so deep for humanity, for justice, for truth, that it refuses to stay silent in the presence of deception. You do not fight because you hate what stands in front of you. You fight because you love what lies on the other side of the destruction. Yet, in your efforts to awaken others, you will often be met with resistance. Not because they are your enemies, but because they are afraid. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing the illusion that kept them comfortable. You'll reach out to them, plead with them, speak to them from the heart. And still, many will turn away. And that rejection will cut you deeper than any blade. The third cost is exhaustion. Fighting against a world that wants you to remain silent is not easy. Every day you wake up with the weight of knowing too much. The news cycles don't fool you. The performances of politicians, the manipulations of institutions, you see through them all. And it drains you, because pretending not to see is easier. You envy those who can simply live, laugh, scroll, and forget. But you can't. You were not made to forget. You were made to remember. There will be days when you want to give up. When your heart feels too heavy, when your body aches from carrying the burden of vision. There will be nights when you cry out to whatever divine force you believe in, asking to be released from this mission. And yet, somehow, you continue. Not because you're fearless, but because something in you refuses to quit. Because even in your pain, you know the truth is worth it. The fourth cost is the loss of identity. The more you awaken, the more you realize that the you, who once played by the system's rules, must die. The ego that craved approval, the personality that conformed, the mask that smiled while your spirit screamed, all of it must fall away. And that death is terrifying, because in the space between who you were and who you are becoming, there is only emptiness, a void, a deep, aching silence where your past no longer fits, and your future has not yet fully arrived. But do not fear this in-between. It is sacred. It is in this space that the fire purifies you, that your soul is reformed, that you become unshakable, not by force, but by surrender. The collapse of the false self is what gives rise to the true one. You see, the cost of being a chosen one is real, but so is the reward. For in your pain, you gain clarity. In your solitude, you gain strength. In your rejection, you find resilience. And in your loss, you discover something that can never be taken from you. Purpose. You begin to realize that your suffering was never punishment, it was preparation. That the wounds you carry are sacred markings. That the fire you walk through was not sent to destroy you, but to forge you into someone capable of carrying the light. The deeper your pain, the greater your capacity for truth. And that truth, your truth, is exactly what the world needs. So if you find yourself breaking, let it happen. Let yourself fall apart. Let everything you thought you needed dissolve. Because what will remain is real. What will emerge is unstoppable. The system may strip you of comfort, status, even relationships, but it can never take your fire. That is eternal. The personal cost is high, yes. But the alternative is worse. Living a lie, pretending everything is fine while the world crumbles under its own deception. You did not come here for comfort. You came here for truth. And though that truth may isolate you now, it will liberate many in the future. You are not alone. Others like you are rising, one by one, bearing their own scars, carrying their own fires. And though you may never meet them face to face, You will know them by their presence, by their depth, by the way they make you feel less alone in your defiance. You are paying the price because you are holding the blueprint for a world not yet built. Your pain is the soil. Your courage is the seed. And your life, your very existence, is the proof that something new is coming. The awakening and the collapse. There comes a moment in the journey of every chosen one when the pain turns into power, when the questions give way to knowing, when the silence is no longer a prison but a sanctuary. This is the moment of awakening, not just of the individual, but of the collective. And when enough of the chosen ones awaken, the collapse begins. Not the kind of collapse the world fears, not the kind born from violence or chaos, but the kind that comes when something false is simply no longer believed in. When people begin to see the machinery behind the illusion and refuse to play along. When the spell breaks, not with noise, but with realization. That is the most powerful kind of revolution. Quiet, inevitable, divine. The systems you see today, whether political, economic, religious, or cultural, are built on layers of deception. They were designed to preserve power, not distribute it. To control, not liberate. To pacify the masses, not awaken them. And for a long time, they succeeded. For centuries, they convinced people that slavery was freedom, that silence was wisdom, that obedience was morality. They taught us to fear our own intuition, to distrust our deepest knowing, to kneel before structures that exploited us. But chosen ones are the cracks in that illusion. You don't attack the system with weapons. You make it irrelevant by showing another way. You don't burn down the old world. You outgrow it. You refuse to energize it with your attention, your compliance, your belief. You withdraw your spirit from its lies, and it begins to starve. The awakening is not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes when you decide, quietly and completely, that you will no longer betray your soul. It comes when you stop explaining yourself to people who are invested in misunderstanding you. It comes when you realize that your truth is not up for debate, and your path is not up for negotiation. And when you do this, when you step fully into who you are, you become a signal, a frequency, a beacon for others who are still asleep. Without even trying, you begin to unlock those around you. Your very presence disrupts the illusion. You don't need to convince or convert. Just by being real, you create discomfort in the system. And discomfort is the first symptom of awakening. Others may not know how to describe it. They may call you intense, intimidating, radical. But what they're really feeling is their own soul stirring in your presence. Something inside them recognizes something inside you. And suddenly, they're no longer comfortable in their roles, in their routines, in their carefully curated lives. The awakening has begun. And when it spreads, when it reaches a tipping point, corrupt systems collapse not with a roar, but with a whisper. The whisper of people walking away, choosing truth over convenience, courage over comfort, love over fear. That's when everything changes. You may not see it immediately. You may not get credit for it. But your role is crucial. Like seeds planted in winter, your impact is invisible at first. But it is growing, silently, powerfully, beneath the surface. Systems fall not when they are attacked, but when they are no longer believed in. And you, chosen one, are part of that unbelief. You are part of the great refusal. The refusal to play small. The refusal to accept injustice. The refusal to be silenced. Do not underestimate your power. You may not have a title, a stage, a platform, but you have something far more potent, truth. That alone can dismantle empires. That alone can tear down walls. That alone can light the path through the darkness. The collapse is not the end. It is the beginning, a necessary breaking to make space for something new. The structures we've built, structures of greed, domination, and separation, were never meant to last. They were created from fear, and what is created from fear cannot stand forever. The collapse is mercy. It is grace. It is the earth reclaiming what was stolen, the soul rising from the ruins of the ego. And from that collapse, something holy will emerge. Not another system, not another hierarchy, but a way of being that honors the sacredness in all things. A world where people are not measured by their productivity, but by their presence. Not judged by their conformity, but celebrated for their authenticity. A world led not by control, but by consciousness. You are not just here to expose the lie. You are here to midwife the truth. to carry the frequency of the future into the present, to live in such a way that others see what's possible, to embody a new way of being so that the old one becomes unbearable. And you will not do this alone. The illusion of isolation is part of the system's trap. But beyond the surface, beyond the noise, there are others like you, quietly rising, silently preparing, carrying the same fire in different forms. You will know them by their eyes, their presence, their unwavering stillness in the storm. And together, without even needing to organize, you will form an invisible network of light that spreads across the globe. You will not be loud. You will be undeniable. So if the world is shaking around you, let it shake. If things are falling apart, let them fall. You were not sent to save the system. You were sent to stand in its ashes and speak of something better, something real, something eternal. The collapse is not a curse. It is a clearing, a sacred reset, a return to the truth. And the chosen ones are not here to mourn it. We are here to lead through it. So rise, not in rage, but in truth. Not in noise, but in knowing. Not in panic, but in power. The time has come. The illusion is cracking. The old world is dying. And you? You were born for this.